this video I'm going to be showing you how to make an HDR time-lapse and a regular time-lapse. First, I open up Photomax Pro and I'm going to batch process photos. So I select my SD card with the bracketed photos and I'm just going to go ahead and set up how I'd like all these photos to be processed. Once I do that, I figure out where I want the location to go, and I want this to be on my C drive. So I find a folder that I've already made, and then I want it to be JPEG, 100%, and I tell it to run. And it's going to take a few hours, so I'll cut back to the video when it's finished. Now that all the HDR images are finished, I'm going to open up the file that it created. And I don't need all of these images like this, so I'm just going to search HDR, select all these, and then delete them. Now I'll open up LR time-lapse, and this is what I'm going to use this for, is to deflicker it, because when I was creating all these HDR files, they're not all exactly the same. Could also use this when you're shooting in some type of automatic mode, like after priority, when you're doing your time-lapse, to deflicker that too. So it's first going to load it all, and then you want to push yes for loading that day, or you can't do anything with it. So then this will take a little while, and I'll show you what happens after this. So all the previews on the photos have been loaded, and you see this blue line right here. They're actually pretty stable, so it might not need deflickering. But you can go through and preview what the time-lapse is going to look like, and then you can deflicker. And I will import those photos that have just been created. So and this is a folder. So you see they're all these photos, and we import those. And I'll take the first one and look at it, see what I might want to do to it. You can see that HDRs create a lot of color fringing, even though I shot this on a tripod. And I see that there's not much other red in the channels, so I could just remove it from there, so now there's no red color fringing. And then I can also just come down to here and remove the color fringing. You know, just see what auto does, and I kind of like that. Maybe not have it minus that. And I might want to bring down a little bit more highlight information, bring the shadows a little more, maybe some contrast, and the whites, and take the clarity, and maybe a little bit of vibrance. Now, I also want to sharpen this, so I'll come in here and sharpen to about quite a bit of sharpness, and then hold down the Alt key on Windows, and just get it so it's sharpening the edges. And I can also get rid of all the color noise there too, and that won't affect the picture at all. Now, so it's already loaded because I have an SSD, and I'll hit Control A, select them all, check all, and then sync them. Oh, one thing I forgot. Oh, never mind. And then I'm just gonna Control Shift E, export all these photos, and just call this HDR Sky. and this time I'm not going to resize to fit 1920 by 1080. I'm going to leave it full resolution. And when you have really big files, it does that prepare to export, and this is going to take a while, so I'll come back when this finishes. So now all the pictures have been exported, and you can see that I have 559, which is an okay amount. I'd like to have at least 800, but I decided to choose to shoot this in medium raw, and since it's an HDR, every 3 pictures is 1 when I'm finished with it. And I had a 32 gig card, so it's not like I had a small card. Now I'm going to open Adobe After Effects, where I will actually stitch the images together. And create a new composition, and all these settings are correct, 1920 by 1080. Now I will import the pictures. Drag it down here. So I have the photos imported, and now I'm just going to create a new composition, and this is good. So take my image, put it on the composition, and now I'm going to try doing something interesting without it just being a flat time lapse. Now, since I took it a lot higher than 1080p, I'm going to have to scale it out a little bit. Something like, oops, actually dragged it a little bit, like that. And I will set all of these to stay the same. And here's my time lapse. Now I'm thinking I might want to rotate it. That might be kind of cool. But I'm also going to have to scale it in a little bit. So now let's see what happens when I play it. So what it's doing is it's going frame by frame and exporting it, and it really doesn't take that much time. It's halfway through, and it says forgot to mention, there's actually a much simpler way to create the time lapses. You open Windows Movie Maker, and I'll just take my files, just all the pictures that has been created with Lightroom, and I can just randomly pull up one of them, and here it is. I can just Control A, select all of them, literally just drag them in. Here's all the photos, and then, but they're not 16 by 9 because I was doing a different process, but if they were, you can just go through, and then you go to Edit, Duration, and you want to put in 0.03, and that will also make it a time lapse.